What's up? Welcome to the Go Grab That Day podcast. Obviously, it's fucking Christmas, hence why I'm wearing this shit. And it's hot as fucking Satan's balls here as well, hence why I'm showing off the big guns. I take out this shit. Yeah, just happy Christmas to fucking all the motherfuckers watching this. Hope you're all happy and out of lockdown wherever you may be. I have a ton of shit to get into here because I'm a little bit behind because of software issues, unfortunately. I apologise, we didn't have any podcast at all last week. It's just literally trying to fix some issues with our camera and laptop, but I'll get through everything I can now here, and we'll get through today's event, which was Thompson versus Neal. We'll get to that later, maybe later today or tomorrow. But anyway, the video will be up. But yeah, hope everyone's well. Keep liking, sharing, all that kind of stuff, and we'll get straight into it because, as I said, I have a lot of stuff to get through. We're going to talk about the UFC Fight Night, Hermansson versus Vettori, and then we'll get through UFC 256. And then, unfortunately, because they're in the news so much, we're going to talk about the Paul brothers as well. They kind of leave me no choice. I can't ignore it. I don't really want to talk about them. But anyway, straight into UFC Fight Night, Hermansson versus Vettori. Not a lot happened outside of the main event on this card, but I'll talk about a couple of things. Firstly, we're going to talk about one of the early fights on the card, which was Matt Wiman versus Jordan Levitt. Or Leavitt, but I think it's Levitt. Matt Wiman, who's been in the UFC for a long time, he was a part of the Ultimate Fighter cast. BJ Penn, the BJ Penn team versus Jens Pulver, I believe. I believe he was part of that team, yeah. Very interesting season, so he kind of became a big character out of that. Been doing it a long time. Salty enough record, not the best record in the world. But like that, he's, as I said, been around a long time. And for those of you that haven't seen it, he lost his fight via a devastating slam. Jordan Levitt, he just basically, Wiman was trying to kind of pull guard, so he had his legs wrapped around Jordan Levitt, and he was just trying to get him to come to the ground, but Levitt kind of stood up. You could see in the transition, Wiman was thinking about, he had his legs wrapped around Levitt and he was thinking about letting him go, because he had an idea he was going to slam him, but he just took too long to make up his mind, and Levitt basically braced against Wyman's face with his forearm and slammed him to fucking hell, and Wiman went out cold straight away. But kind of hard to see. Not that the knockout wasn't, it was bad, but it wasn't overly vicious, but it was the fact that he was out for quite a while, and I believe his wife or girlfriend or fiance or whatever she is, she was in the corner. Wasn't very nice to see, but the good thing is, I think it's good news anyway. I think the UFC let him go. That's not the good news, but he retired afterwards because he's been doing it a long time, and time to give it up maybe, especially when you're getting knockouts like that. Good win for Jordan Levitt, which we'll get to in a minute. But looking at Wyman's record, he's a few good wins here. Notable names would be Justin Buchholz, who's one of Team Alpha Males, one of Uriah Faber's boys. Mac Danzig, he beat two. Cole Miller beat Mac Danzig twice. But the last three fights, lost three in a row, then he won one and lost another, so it's not a great record. But an older guy, so it's good to see him retire. I did like with Matt Wiman, he was just kind of one of those characters I like. He was always down to fight, but I am glad to see him retire. Devastating knockout, and credit to Jordan Levitt. He meant every bit of it. You could see he was trying to knock him out with the slam. So yeah, pretty cool to see. But even better, I've done enough giving out lately about guys needing to retire, so it's good to see when the time comes that they do it. On to Jordan Levitt, new guy in the UFC. Kind of a, how do I say this? It's kind of a free character. I'm trying to say this without. He's very feminine. He kind of comes across a very feminine guy, which there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want people go taking my head off, but just funny to see in the UFC, but a funny character all the same in a good way. You know, where he is a set free kind of character. Even the way he prances around the ring, he doesn't walk. You know, but clearly a good fighter though. You know, he's no joke. Just as I said, he's a funny kind of character. That's a massive win for him. You know, good. With that slam, he'd be on notice now for his next fight, whoever he gets. I haven't heard that he's gotten a fight yet, but anyway, moving on. Yeah, so the other fights on it. This wasn't a huge card, as I said. There's just some fights we're talking about. There's a few I'm going to skip over here, as I said, we've got a lot to talk about. So, the co-main event on that card was OSP, Ovince St. Preux versus Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill won via TKO round 2. I kind of want to talk about OSP. He's another one of these guys who, to me, he's looked very slow. St. Preux is always known for he's got a really good, what do they call it? He's got some good chokes, really powerful left high kick. But other than that, he always looks to me like he's super slow, a step behind fighters. Jamal Hill looked really good, you know, his hands in particular looked really good, but just, I don't know, St. Preux is another, like Dana White, we'll get to some fighters later who've been cut from the UFC, like outside of Matt Wyman, but Dana White announced last week, or maybe the week before, that they are going to be cutting a lot more fighters, you know, they're not going to be, obviously, we spoke about already, Anderson Silva's gone, but I think he said he wants to cut about 50 or 60 fighters by Christmas. And there's been a few names since, a few bigger names, which, as I said, we'll talk about in a few minutes, but I think guys like OSP, he might be one of those guys. And I would agree with it. I mean, look at his record here. He has a win, or he has a loss against Jamal Hill. He has a win, a loss, a win. Sorry, stupid laptop singing to me. Just ignore that. But yeah, he's a loss, a win, loss, win, loss, loss, win, loss, win. So very kind of over and back record. I mean, if you have to go back to November 2017 when he was on a 3-fight win streak. Other than that, he hasn't put two wins together. You know, I know 2017 is not that long ago, but you see guys, you know, get fired for less. And I'm not trying to say that he has to get fired, you know, or but what more does he have to offer the UFC? I would wonder. He used to be a guy I used to like watching, because like I said, he has a nasty, powerful left high kick, a fast one for a big guy. But just, yeah, the last while he's kind of just been stagnant, in my opinion. Yeah, it just hasn't looked fantastic. And anyway, you know, he went up in weight class against Ben Rothwell in about 2 fights ago, I think, which was on the Smith versus Teixeira card, 13th of May. Is that long ago? Shit. But anyway, yeah, he looked, you know, obviously tried to change it up a bit by going up, and he looked twice as slow up there. So yeah, I just think you might hear he'll be on the chopping block soon. I don't see him doing much for the UFC. Even to call him a gatekeeper, you know, you see, I've spoken about that before, you see guys who, they're still kind of able to do it. So they become kind of a gatekeeper for younger fighters coming through. I don't even know if I'd call him a gatekeeper. You know, I'm probably being a bit harsh, but yeah, he could be a guy you see getting cut soon. Wasn't overly impressive in that fight, as I said, looked super slow. Can't take away from Jamal Hill, his hands look really good. In particular his hands. And he got the finish in the end. Jamal Hill is he's probably one to look out for. But yeah, wouldn't be surprised. I haven't heard it yet, but I would not be surprised to hear OSP is on the chopping block for the UFC. But anyway, I'm going to move on from OSP. So yeah, Jamal Hill won that, the whole main event. I'm going to, like I said, skipping through this, there's a lot to talk about. Moving on to Hermansson versus Vettori in the main event. This was a cracking fight. It was everything, you know. I did think it was going to be a good fight, a lot of people did, but it, you know, met and exceeded everyone's expectations. Just a war over and back, you know, one guy was looking like he was on top early, and then I think earlier on Vettori kind of came out of the gates pretty well, he looked good, and then Hermansson just started taking over, and then it was over and back, and Vettori win in the end by decision, but cracking fight, both of them kind of you know, you've got Kevin Holland, who we'll talk about later, looking really good in the middleweight division. You know, Khamzat Chimaev, whether he's going to stay at welterweight or middleweight, we're not sure. Um, you know, you've a few. The middleweight division, which was kind of quiet and stagnant for a while, is looking like it's quite a few good names in there. You still have Robert Whittaker, obviously Izzy is the champ. Paulo Costa is still going to be there. Cannonier. So it's quite a fun division. Like the UFC's divisions are quietly, like even let's say the middleweight, which isn't the best division in the UFC at the moment, but it's quietly kind of becoming a very exciting division with some of these guys. And you're only ever, when you're in a division like that with a champion who's pretty dominant like Izzy is, and he's such a big character, you're only ever a couple of exciting wins away from getting a shot, or getting a big name at least. And those two boys are definitely in there. You have to feel bad for Hermansson in the sense that for this fight he went through 3 different opponent changes, I think, or in the last 3, yeah, pretty much he's had 3 opponent changes consecutively is the word I was looking for. So that's annoying considering you're getting ready for a guy. You got to keep changing your plan. There was a video kind of going around on, I don't know, it was on UFC Fight Pass, or one of them was showing Hermansson getting a call to say he was going to be fighting Vittori, and he just repeatedly kind of says fuck, fuck, fuck over and over, and then he accepts the fight. He's like, yeah, yeah, give me him, because he just wanted a fight. That's the kind of guy he is. But the good thing about this fight, it was so good that it doesn't really damage either guy's reputation. You know, Hermansson obviously lost, but I think it only brought his stock up because it was such a good fight, and you need a fight like this, you know, to kind of boost your name. And Hermansson is not going to go anywhere, and Vittori as well. Both of them are going to cause problems for people in that division. Not whether I don't think they're good enough really to beat Izzy, but to go to Vittori's point, like he's the guy who gave Izzy his toughest test up to now. And you think of the names Izzy has gone through. Now whether Stylebender's going to stay in that division, you know, there's all the talk of him supposedly fighting in light heavyweight next year, and you can understand that, but hopefully it doesn't hold up this division too much. One thing I hate when guys leave a division, it holds it up for everyone else. So if that's the case, you may see it'll be like the middle, if they're lucky, the middle or the end of next year, when you see one of these guys or whoever it is getting a shot at the title. I would imagine you might see Vittori fighting Paulo Costa or Robert Whittaker or something like that, or maybe a Cannonier. You know, that's the good thing. There's enough names from there, but in terms of Izzy, could be waiting a while for that fight, unfortunately. But yeah, like it's, you know, the main thing is it doesn't damage either guy's reputation, which is good. In particular for Hermansson, I like both guys, but it was harsh to see him lose considering he's taken his last 3 fights, even though they're all opponent changes. Or he's had 3 for this fight. I can't remember which it is, but either way, he's had an opponent change 3 times consecutively. Like, so it would have been harsh if it was a big loss for him, but thankfully it doesn't do too much damage to either guy. But the middleweight division getting exciting. It's good to see. So anyway, we're going to move on, as I said, try and get through it really quick, because this next card, probably, arguably, one of the best cards the UFC has had in years, in terms of not the big names on it, but just the fights, top to bottom, like from early prelims right down. And I'm going to talk about pretty much every fight, which is UFC 256. Obviously, I'm behind, as I've said, a little behind on all this, because UFC 256 was last week, but that's why we're squeezing in the 2 cards. It's like, shut up complaining. But yeah, from the opening bout on the card, I want to talk about Chase Hooper versus Peter Barrett. This is on the early prelims. The reason I want to talk about this fight is mainly about Chase Hooper. He's the youngest guy in the UFC right now. I believe he's 22, 23, something like that, and he looks like he's about 14. But really good jiu-jitsu guy, terrible striker. Was pretty much getting his ass, I don't want to say his ass handed to him, but he's getting pretty well beat in this fight by Peter Barrett. I believe Peter Barrett comes out of Satyadong camp in, I think it's New York. For the life of me, I can't think of their head coach at the moment, but he's bear with me 1 second. I hate when I do this. Yeah. Team City of Tong is how you pronounce it, I think. Yeah, their head coach, Mark Delagrate. So, one of the best, striking coaches in the UFC around a long time. But yeah, Peter Barrett came out of that camp, I believe. Um, Pretty well known camp, but Peter Barrett's around a long time, but he was pretty much beating the crap out of Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper kind of a couple of times went for the Imanari roll, trying to slide under his legs and just get a knee or an ankle or something. He failed, I think, once or twice, but eventually he got the submission, towards the end of round 3, which is crazy, after getting his ass pretty much handed to him. But the thing about this is, a lot of people have already kind of done a lot of talk about Chase Hooper, but I'm going to do as well. He, for a young guy, with a really good jiu-jitsu game, but zero striking, he's been kind of getting his ass handed to him the last couple of fights, and it's not good because he can't. There is no room, there is no wiggle room in the UFC. One of the best people, I know I'm always kissing this guy's ass, but, well, I'll give 2 examples. You've got Anderson Silva and Israel Adesanya. Both guys came to the UFC quite late in their career, for the average. Adesanya was like in his late 30s when he joined the UFC, or in his late 20s, sorry. And Silva, like, he was 31, 32, I think. He was right in his prime when he joined the UFC, and obviously went on an absolute tear. But Adesanya is famously known for turning down the UFC, telling them that he would join in a couple of years when he was ready. And that's the kind of, it shows, because now he's in his prime, he looks unbeatable. Whereas Chase Hooper's quite young, doesn't really have a striking game, great jiu-jitsu, but he's in the UFC already without getting, it's not, you hear it from other guys, they'll explain about it than I do, but it's not really the place to kind of get your bearings. The UFC, that they're unforgiving in that sense. They don't really give guys, the UFC are kind of known to like, unless you're a Conor McGregor, they don't give you these nice matchups. If you're a new guy, they like to show, the UFC kind of like to flex their muscles and show just how good the UFC is. As you'll see, you're going to see, like, with guys like Michael Chandler, who's come from Bellator, he's not going to get an easy tune-up fight. He's going to get one of the best in the division, and the UFC are going to want him to lose, because it shows just how good the UFC are and the standard in the UFC. And it's going to be the same with Chase Hooper. He's going to get maybe a couple of that, because he's young and he has no name himself. That's where he's lucky. He'll get a couple of easy fights, but he's already, I think he's won one, lost one, and he won this one. But he did beat Daniel Tamer, which is a good win. But the point I'm making is, with Chase Hooper, is it would be good to see him leave the UFC and get some time out somewhere else. Build up his striking, because otherwise you're going to see, in 10 years, he's going to be one of these guys who just spent fucking 10 years getting his ass handed to him. There's other, like, great jiu-jitsu practitioners in the UFC, or like looking at Khabib, who's obviously wrestling is his game, but Khabib is not a bad striker. It's not the best of his game, but Khabib uses his striking to set up a lot of other things Chase Hooper doesn't. He just, like, even he fought Alex Caceres in his last fight, and he looked nowhere near Caceres' level. But otherwise you're going to see him stick around and keep having fights like this. Spend 2 rounds getting your ass handed to you and hope to catch somebody in an Imanari roll. And I don't know a whole deep level on jiu-jitsu, but he tried the Imanari role twice and got it once. And a lot of the UFC commentators were saying that Peter Barrett should not have gotten caught with it. They should have been ready. Should have kind of. It was more down to Peter Barrett's poor defense, which I'm not trying to take it away from Chase Hooper, but for a guy that young, it'd be nice to see him go, because he's building quite a following too. Because he's a funny character. He's a young guy. But it'd be nice to see him go somewhere. Just build your game a little more, and then come back to the UFC. They'd probably allow it too. A young kid like him with a good following. It's just a smarter way to do it. Or else, what he's going to have to do is find a camp, find a solid like a Jason Perillo or we were talking about Mark Del Grotte. You know, there's heaps of them. You know, the names are not coming to me. There's tons of great striking guys in the UFC. You know, Duke Rufus. He needs to up that game, or else he's going. Like I said, he's going to be a guy in 8 to 10 years, and he's just going to be fucking punch drunk. You know, because as I said, you need more nowadays in the UFC. You need more guys like that don't survive. You know, Ryan Hall was a guy I talk a lot about. Fantastic jiu-jitsu guy. You know, you don't call the wizard for nothing, but he's a guy who, you know, throws backspinning kicks and really rounded out his striking game. Now, his jiu-jitsu will be his best game, as will Chase Hooper's, but you still need to have a little bit of everything else. But yeah, it's just yeah, he's gonna be punch drunk if he doesn't. Anyway, enough about Chase Hooper. A lot more to talk about. It was a good win from just, you know, like I said, it's not good to see that happening to a young guy. So anyway, moving on. Yes, the next fight was Cub Swanson versus Daniel Pineda. I'm not going to spend too long on this one. Great win for Cub Swanson. God, another guy's been doing it a long time, but looked great in this fight. A really exciting fight. At the TKO in round 2. But yeah, it looked good. It was a little dicey there sometimes. He was getting really hard leg kicks. And for those that don't know, Cub Swanson, I think only last year or the year before, completely tore his ACL. So that was worrying, but in the end he got the win. Like, but tough dude. Cub Swanson doing it a long time. Tough dude. Still looks great. Yeah, great win for him. I had to mention that, but I want to move on to next guy, which I think I did talk about previously, but if I didn't, I'm going to fucking talk about him now. So this fight was Renato Moicano versus Rafael Fiziev. I think that's how you pronounce it. Some people call him Fiziev, but I call him Fiziev. It's easier to say. But Moicano is a Brazilian great fighter, very well rounded. But Rafael Fiziev, or Rafael, I don't know, for Fiziev anyway, comes out of Tiger Muay Thai in Thailand. He's under the Hickman brothers, which at that camp, I've said it before, like, they're not getting enough credit for the guys they're bringing up in the UFC. You know, they've obviously have a connection with City Kickboxing here in Auckland. You know, I've trained under Frank Hickman, one of the guys that run the camp out there, him and his brother. But cool character, nice guy. But they're breeding some really good fighters, and you don't hear the UFC or the commentators or anything talk about it enough. I know a lot of people, what they used to do was, if they wanted to kind of polish up on their striking a bit, they used to go to Tiger Muay Thai and just, you know, maybe spend 6 weeks, couple of months there if they wanted to polish up, and then go back to their actual camp, their actual coaches and stuff. But there's a lot of guys who that's their main camp, and they're coming. Like, you look at Peter Yan, who's champion in the UFC now. You know, you have Brad Riddell, Alex Volkanovski. A lot of those guys have come out of Tiger Muay Thai. That's not their main camps, but they spend a lot of time training there. But this guy Fiziev and Peter Yan, that's their main camp, Tiger Muay Thai. Nice to see them get a bit more credit, because they are becoming one of the big, if not already, but just they're going a little unnoticed in my opinion. But this guy Fiziev, fuck, he's super exciting addition to the lightweight division. I watched one of his first fights. I can't remember who he fought, but one of his first fights, and just his hands and his movement and vicious striker, really, really quick, really technical. I loved watching his striking. And he dropped Moicano's a tough guy to knock out, and he dropped him with a super fast 1-2. You could hear it. Yeah, so when Fiziev caught Moicano with the 1-2, he was out. As soon as he hit him, he was out. I think he landed maybe one more shot. There was a big argument from Moicano towards the ref to say it was an early stoppage. It wasn't. It was not. One thing I think Dana White talked about it, or one of the commentators or something. Some people had said, there is some people that think maybe the ref could let it go another bit, but Moicano was out. He was 100% out. One thing you never see the UFC do, which I think it was Dana White spoke about it, you always see the cameras will pick up, the guy that has won. No matter what's happening with the guy that got knocked out, but the guy that has won, they'll pick his celebration up. The cameras will focus on him. But there was one camera, it picked up, I think they showed it later, or they might have shown it during the fight, I can't remember, but they stayed on Moicano. And he was kind of on his knees pleading or giving out to the ref saying, why the fuck did you stop it or whatever. But then as he tried to make his way back to his corner, his legs were gone. He was out, 100% out. And if you hear the shot live, the sound of it, Fiziev knocked him. He was out cold, and it was a great decision by the ref. But Fiziev was one of these guys definitely worth keeping an eye on. I think he's going to shake up that lightweight division big time. Another addition to that fucking that division it's stacked. It's absolutely stacked. It's going to need to make a separate division eventually. Like, the lightweight division is class. It's the best division I've seen in the UFC in years. That I can ever remember, being honest. But yeah, he's another addition there, and there's some. I'm not even going to go through the list of fights that guy could have, but he's making a name quick for himself in the UFC, and I cannot wait to see his next fight. It's just a striking, a beauty to watch the way he strikes. I definitely can't wait for his next fight. That's a big win. Moicano is he's no punk, as they would say. But anyway, let's move on. I just realised I've been doing that kind of back to front. I kind of started with Cub Swanson. Usually I start the other way, but it doesn't matter. I usually go from the opening fight to the. But Cub Swanson was if you want to say, like, the main fight on the prelims, and Moicano and Fiziev were the co-main, but not that it matters. But I'll go through the other two fights on the prelims, which was Gavin Tucker and Billy Quarantillo. Very good fight too. This one went to decision. Really exciting fight. Over and back, Billy Q. Quarantillo, he's known to push a pace. Not the most technical fighter, but he pushes a pace on guys and breaks them. That's what he normally does. And Gavin Tucker was a guy going in with better striking, better technique. And it was that way. But Gavin Tucker also pushed a heavy pace back towards Billy Quarantillo, and added with his technical striking. That's what one of the fighters, a really exciting fight over and back. But Gavin Tucker looked really good. Pushed a really high pace, and it's very rare that guys will meet Billy Quarantillo for pace and pressure and things like that. But Gavin Tucker did it in this fight, and that's what won it in the end. It went to decision, but nevertheless, great win for Gavin Tucker. And the opening fight on that card, which, as I said, I've kind of gone from closing fight to opening fight, which I don't usually do it that way. But anyway, it was Tecia Torres versus Sam Hughes. And Tecia Torres, obviously another one's been around a long time, but she's very good in this fight. Just her striking, she was, from the start, she was vicious. And this fight was stopped via, a doctor stoppage. There was people. It was Tecia Torres versus Sam Hughes, and Sam Hughes, I don't know, she got a punch or whatever in the eye, or was it a kick, but she couldn't see out of her eye anyway. But I had people complaining, how giving out about the doctors and stuff like that. But if you're watching the fight live on TV, Sam Hughes gave up, and that's not to shit on her, but she did. Obviously, she would tell the truth, there was something wrong with her eye. But as soon as she went back to her corner, she kept saying, "I can't see out of whether it was a left or a right eye." And you'll always see with fighters in the UFC, they'll never tell you that if they want to continue fighting. Because the doctors, they listen into all of this shit, and the ref, of course, listens in. But she said, yeah, she said, I can't see, and her corner, obviously, giving her the water, stuff like that, seeing that she was okay. And she kind of whispered another time, I can't see out of my eye, and that was it. And you could hear her corner saying, you can't see. The coach said, I don't know who her coach was, to be honest, but he said, listen, I'm stopping this fight. And she kind of, she said, no, don't stop it, but it wasn't the most convincing no. I think she kind of just wanted to save face by saying, don't stop it. But I think, and if you can't see, you're right, there's nothing wrong with that. The only reason I'm saying this is that people, because I'm not one for always shitting on the doctors and the refs sometimes, but the doctor was 100% right in this one. He eventually came over, I think her corner had asked, listen doctor, take a look at her eye or whatever. The doctor came over and it was pretty much her corner that stopped the fight, it wasn't really the doctor. When your fighter's sitting there saying, I can't see, she wanted a way out and she got it. And I'm not trying to say she's a coward, nothing like that. I'm just trying to argue for the doctor, that's all. It was a good stoppage, if you can't see, fucking save your eye, fight another day. It's not something that repairs that easy. But great win for Tecia Torres. But yeah, no, good doctor stoppage in that fight, which I rarely say. But yeah, she wanted out. Clearly her eye was bad, so that was good. Moving on to fucking main card. So I'm gonna go the way I should have done, which is opening fight to closing fight. So yeah, Junior Dos Santos versus Ciryl Gane, however you want to pronounce it. Commentators make these names hard to pronounce because one will pronounce it one way and another will pronounce it the other way, and I never know how to say it. But I think it's Ciryl Gane. Well, that's what I'm going to call him for now. So yeah, Gane versus Junior Cigano Dos Santos. So Ciryl Gane, you're a big fucking dude, even for heavyweight. My God, he looked much bigger than Junior in this fight. Just a super wide, big dude, and moves very well for a heavyweight. Which, as does Junior Dos Santos, but yeah, Ciryl Gane for a new guy, I think he's a 7-0 record, 7-0 pro record. But yeah, it looked very good. I'm a very big Junior Dos Santos fan. I always have been. But he's another guy I'm going to say his time is up. It's time to hang up the gloves. Just getting too much punishment now in the last few fights. Whether it's a win or a loss, he just doesn't have the chin anymore. He still looks good. He still puts up a good fight, but when he's touched, he just goes out. He was complaining, I believe, this fight that he'd been hit in the back of the head, which he wasn't. He was hit. There's a patch. I know I'd seen John McCarthy, the big John, the ref, explain it before. He actually had explained it to Conor McGregor at the time. The guys have the V haircuts, which it goes back into like a V at the back of the head. Well, that V, when you see the V on someone's, that hairstyle, that's the area you can't hit. But where it's shaved here, you can hit behind the ear. You can hit this patch here. It's just like right at the back of the skull. You can't hit, but you have an area here you can hit. And in my opinion, that's exactly where Ciryl Gane landed on Junior Dos Santos to finish him. He had landed a couple of shots anyway, and the problem was Junior had turned away a little bit, kind of turned his back, and Gane came in with an elbow and caught him. It looked to me like right on that perfect spot just behind the ear. Junior was complaining quite a bit afterwards, saying, and maybe he did think it probably felt like it was on the back of the head, but at the same time, Junior turned his back. So even if Gane had connected perfectly on the side of the head, he would have knocked him out. So it doesn't really matter. But Junior Dos Santos is known for being a really good guy, so I'm not going to go shitting on him for that. He probably did think it was in the back of the head. But when you're getting hit by a fucking heavyweight, I'm sure it feels like that anyway. Yeah, Dana White did mention that he thinks maybe this is the end of Junior's road, and I hope it is, just for his own sake. He's one of those really cool characters in the UFC, real nice guy, cool guy to look up to for a lot of fighters and stuff like that. Go into coaching, like I'm always saying, I'm not going to spend too long on harping on this, but another guy would probably get cut, I'd imagine, in the only issue is it's heavyweight. There's not a lot of names in heavyweight right now, but they are still bringing guys through. And then moving on from that, good win from Cyril Gane. Big man, big dude. I don't, even if it's for heavyweight, he is fucking huge and chiseled. I imagine he guy must have a fucking perfect diet. But anyway, enough of me talking about him. So the next one, which was great fight, Kevin Holland versus Ronaldo Souza, Jacare Souza. That's an amazing finish by Kevin Holland. I'm really believing the Kevin Holland hype now. Kind of believed it beforehand, but now I really believe the hype. Kevin Big Mouth Holland loves to kind of. I've spoken about this guy a couple of times before. This is the guy that was doing a lot of shit talking towards Israel Adesanya after one of his wins. But he's backing it up. Kevin Holland is backing it up all the way. For anyone that hasn't seen it, you should have seen it. But Kevin Holland was put on his back, which is usually the worst place you want to be against Jacare Souza. It's the best part of his game. As I said, Holland was kind of on his back, from what I remember, kind of on his back or towards his hip. Jacare was kind of, in Kevin Holland's guard and above him. And you see, like all guys do, Kevin Holland was swinging, back fists, hammer fists, just to try and do something. But he caught him clean with a couple of really heavy hammer fists and he knocked him out, which rarely do you see that. Very rare. I think Nico Price done it in the welterweight division, but it's a very rare thing. But obviously, hindsight is 2020. But when you look back at it, you could see Kevin Holland wasn't really. He was trying to hurt him. This wasn't kind of all it off me sort of. He was throwing with power, and the first one he caught him, it was like on his forehead. And as soon as that hit him, you could see Jacare didn't like it. And then he hit him a couple more, and he just put him out cold. It's the power that Kevin Holland must possess is unreal, because it's very rare. And not only did he knock out Jacare, but when Jacare got up and sat on the stool, and you hear Joe Rogan saying it during the event, it looks like he's about to pass out again. Like he's kind of still falling on the stool. They can't get him steady. And yeah, just a really good knockout, a vicious knockout. Something you very rarely see, and it hypes up Kevin Holland's name even more now. And I'm starting to believe the hype. This guy is going to be a problem for people in that division. Again, that's middleweight, so it's another exciting addition. Obviously, he's not new to the division, but you know what I mean. His name is climbing up there. You're going to see him get someone big next. I know you're talking about Khamzat Chimaev. I don't know whether that guy is going to stay in middleweight or stay in welterweight or just flirt between the two, but good fight. But Kevin Holland is going to get a big name next. He wanted to fight this week. I think if he had fought this week, he would have broke the record for most consecutive fights in a year. I think he's had 5 fights this year. It's fucking crazy. But yeah, I'm believing the hype. He's another big character for the UFC. Came off Dana White's Contender Series, which is proven to really be a good feeding ground for new fighters, which is also why you're seeing probably a lot of these older guys get cut, because Dana White's Contender Series and supposedly the Ultimate Fighter's coming back next year. I'll probably try and pump up a lot of new talent. But I'm fully on the Kevin Holland train now. What a win! What a way to get a win against Jacare. Again, Jacare might be another guy kind of on the chopping block for the UFC. One of those older guys that's been around a long time. Probably won't win the title. Yeah, it's a possibility you'll hear his name too. But yeah, there's going to be sharks swimming around the UFC for the next few months. Bellator and stuff like that. But we'll talk a little more about that later. Moving on to that card, that was a great win for Kevin Holland, and cannot wait to see him fight next. And the next fight was Mackenzie Dern versus Fernaz Jandiroba. This is a very exciting fight too. It would have been fight of the night if not for the main event. Just that Mackenzie Dern, who's known for being another really good BJJ practitioner, but didn't use it at all in this fight. The two of them just stood and cracked for the whole 3 rounds. Mackenzie Dern getting the decision in the end, which I do think was right. But a really good fight, both of them just striking over and back. Mackenzie Dern, I think, was trying to put out a statement, that she can strike too. Her striking wasn't brilliant, but much better, much improved to what she has been. I believe she's working with Jason Perillo now at the moment, I think, which good striking coach. So like I was saying about Chase Hooper earlier, that's the kind of thing he needs to do. But you can't compare Mackenzie Dern because she can strike a little bit. But great win for her. I believe in the second round she broke, first or second round, couldn't even beat the start of the third, but she had her nose broke, Mackenzie Dern. Still didn't go to the round, still chose to stand up and strike. So she's another lady, slowly kind of on the rise. Has had a couple of bumps along the way, but she keeps improving her stand up. No doubt about it, she'll be a problem because her jiu-jitsu is just outstanding. But great win for her. Move on to the co-main event. Get through this card a little quicker, which is good. But this was super surprising, if I'm being honest. Tony Ferguson versus Charles Oliveira. This was the fight everyone was talking about. But it was insanely one-sided. Oliveira was just, didn't give Tony Ferguson an inch. Completely controlled him in the grappling sense. I know some people are saying Ferguson maybe looked poor. I think it was Luke Thomas, it was a brilliant podcast, Morning Combat. I think he spoke about, or either he or his colleague spoke about how Ferguson didn't have the same swagger before the fight. They pointed out, which is true. Usually you kind of see Ferguson pacing over and back, and he does like his little, fake wrestling takedowns, kind of slides to one knee. It's just something he does as his name is being announced. And he didn't do that this time, he just kind of stood. Still, which is strange. I hadn't noticed, I didn't really pay attention to that until after the fight. Like to say, hindsight is 2020. But I suppose in that sense he did look a little different, and he didn't have Eddie Bravo in his corner, who was his usual coach. But there was no problem there. I just think Eddie Bravo is just not coaching guys during COVID. None of his fighters, I think. That's what I've heard anyway. But usually that's who Ferguson would have. So I'm sure that played a part. He came out afterwards kind of saying it was just not his night or whatever, and he has made some comments saying how he feels he broke Oliveira early in the fight. Where he sees that, I have no fucking idea. Or what he's even talking about, I don't know. But that's Tony Ferguson. He's crazy, it's one of his things. Credit to Oliveira. Like I have talked a lot about Oliveira. I think he's brilliant. He's really good, but I did not expect him to win this well. He had a huge chance of winning. It was a very close fight. I thought it would be, but I did not think he was going to dominate like this. But credit to him, and that again, the lightweight division, he has put them on fucking notice too, big time, and nobody's going to want to fight him. He's not the kind of guy you want to fight now. With regards to Tony Ferguson, fucking pisses me off. There's a lot of guys now talking about, I've gone through the list there of guys that are my big coach and stuff like that. I don't see that being the case of Ferguson. Ferguson has at the very least earned another two, 3 fights, couple of years, whatever it may be in the UFC. He's at the very least earned that. In all the years, went on a dominant, whatever it was, 12 or 13 fight streak, which is unheard of, outside of guys like Khabib. But Ferguson had that in the UFC, which, as I said, it's unheard of, and never got his title shot. For some reason that Khabib and Ferguson fight was never meant to be. That's not really the UFC's fault. They did try and make it 5 times, so you can't blame them there. But the point I'm making is, because of that, he has earned, the chance to give him a little bit of, give him a loss or two, and give him a chance to bounce back. Don't write him off just yet. And Tony Ferguson putting on great fights and winning streaks for years, so people, they're a bit too quick to shit on him as well. Now, the other sense is, he's an older guy, been through a lot of wars, so maybe in the next fight, if he still doesn't look very Tony Ferguson like, you don't want to see him take too much punishment either, because he has been doing it for a long time, taking a lot of punishment. That's just the way he fights, dishing out the punishment at the same time. But it's, people are just a little too quick to kind of say, oh, he's done, he's finished after the Gaethje fight. Finished, yes, give him a chance, People are so quick to bury legends, and then they want to keep these other fucking idiots hanging around, or they want to, kiss the Paul brothers' asses, but they think Tony Ferguson is done, He may be. I'm not saying he's not, but he has earned a little more time, It's only, obviously he's lost his last 2 fights, but this one wasn't like a vicious loss. It was a very one-sided, but it wasn't like the Gaethje fight where he took punishment. This was just a massively controlled fight in Oliveira's terms. But great win for Oliveira, very surprised he was able to do that to Ferguson. But yeah, Oliveira's coming for the boys at the top of that division, and he's going to pose big problems for anybody. Yeah, moving on to the main event, which was Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. If you haven't seen this fight, fucking watch it. My God, it was one of the best, definitely the best flyweight fight ever. I don't think it was fight of the year, but it's up there. My opinion, which I forgot was even this year, was Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Zhang Weili. That's the fight of the year. Probably the best women's fight ever. But this fight was really good too. Yeah, just war from start to finish, and I was in the corner of Brandon Moreno. I wanted him to win. Not that I don't dislike Figueiredo, but I just wanted Moreno to win. He's a good story behind him. He's a tough Mexican. Like 99% of Mexicans are just tough dudes, and they're born to fight. He just gave Figueiredo everything. Gave him everything Figueiredo gave him, he gave it back. And Figueiredo, who he has more power, there's no doubt about that, but Moreno was just gritty, took the shots and gave it back and just pushed the fucking pace on it. But credit has got to be given to Figueiredo as well, because he is known for struggling with cutting down to flyweight. But at no point did he really look like he was slowing down, or he looked like it was affecting him. He looked good, and this is for 2 guys who only fought 3 weeks ago. Brilliant, such a good fight. They deserve all the credit they get, and I cannot wait to see them fight again. In terms of the draw, was it a fair decision? Yeah, I think the draw was fair. Obviously Figueiredo had a point taken away for his fouls, and that's another thing. The referee was brilliant. I was a little shocked myself to see Jason Herzog. He took the point away immediately after the low blow, but before that Figueiredo had fouled a couple of times with eye pokes and just grabbing gloves and things like that. So I'd like to see refs do that a bit more. It was a good thing to see. Jason Herzog is a very experienced ref. He's been around a long time, but it's good to see, and I think that's what maybe tipped the scales in the fight a little bit. But Moreno, just because I believe a lot of people didn't think he was going to win this fight, going to challenge as well as he did. Me being a fan, I'd hoped he would, but both guys, it was just crazy over and back fight. Really cannot wait to see the rematch, and I hopefully the two of them came out of this fight unscathed. I haven't heard of any major injuries or anything like that, so yeah, it's crazy fight. Such a cracking fight. That entire card was definitely the best card of the year, which might have gone a little unnoticed if you're more of a casual UFC fan, because the names aren't huge, and unfortunately flyweight main events, because they're smaller, aren't as big as some of the other main events. But you would have missed out big time if you did not watch this event. It was absolutely brilliant. Just such an over and back high pace, and every fight, there was no boring fights on it really. Yeah, just brilliant all around. Cannot wait to see the two boys fight again. And what are we moving on to? Yeah, so next we'll talk a little bit about the Paul brothers and their bullshit, and we're talking about Yoel Romero and Rumble Johnson. But yeah, that's the fight cards done. Yeah, so the other thing I wanted to talk about was, I mentioned earlier about the UFC are making some cuts. I think they set up on 50 or 60, and they've already got rid of some guys. Anderson Silva, as I said, some of the smaller names as well. Rachel Ostovich is gone, which a lot of the lads out there will be disgusted, myself included. But unfortunately for Rachel Ostovich, she, a bit like Paige Van Zandt, you can't be kept around just because you're a pretty face either, talented fighter, she is good, but just too inconsistent. And yeah, I guess the UFC just had enough and let her go. But she's such a popular lady, and there's no doubt about it. She's stunning. She'll win some other lane, whether she goes to Bellator or something like that. I just fucking hope she doesn't go to bare knuckle. Jesus. And why Paige Van Zandt is doing that, I'll never understand. But anyway, that's another story. But the UFC also, which I was very surprised, have let go. I'm sure everyone has heard of this, but I just want to talk about it anyway. Yoel Romero. I know people would argue Yoel is, 42 or something, I think. His age. I can't see his age, but yeah, he's, I think he's 42-ish. But, yeah, like, when you look at his record and how, by no means has he slowed down. Does he look like he's late in his career or anything like that? People can say the age, I get that, but when you look at Romero's record, which I have it up here, he's lost his last 3, fair enough, but he lost to Adesanya, unanimous decision. Everyone knows how shit that fight was. He lost to Paulo Costa, unanimous decision, which, to be honest, I thought he won that fight. I actually thought he won it. That was a war. It was a great fight. And then before that, he had another war with Robert Whittaker. He lost via split decision. I can see, like, a lot of people thought he won that fight too. Do you understand? Then he demolished Luke Rockhold before that. Beat him via knockout. He lost to Robert Whittaker, unanimous decision. But then you go back before that. I'll consider all of those, which is obviously, it's 3 losses in a row, all via split decision, unanimous decision. Only one did he really, like, in my opinion, only one was clear cut, was the Adesanya one, and he did nothing in that fight. But had 2 Fight of the Night awards against, one against Paulo Costa, one against Robert Whittaker, both seriously close fights, and then the other Whittaker fight. But he went on a run. Like I say, he beat Clifford Starks, TKO, Honey Marks, TKO, Derek Brunson, TKO, and that was, he got a Fight of the Night, I think. Beat Brad Tavares, unanimous decision. Beat Tim Kennedy, TKO. Beat Lyoto Machida, KO with elbows. Got a performance of the night. He beat Jacare Souza, split decision. And he beat Chris Weidman, which was the flying knee, and he got a performance of the night, And then obviously he has a couple of little wins or losses here, but I think maybe the UFC were a little harsh in letting him go. I can understand why, because guys like him who are around a long time, they get paid a lot more money. And I suppose the UFC are making way for a new wave of young stars that they have, so I understand it, but I was quite surprised. I thought they could have kept him for another while. But realistically, would he, on the other side then, would he have gotten another title shot? Probably not. I mean, he's had 3 title shots, and his last fight against Izzy just didn't perform. He just didn't do anything. But that's the problem. You have 2 counter strikers. Neither of them really did anything. But Izzy was the champion, so he didn't really have to. So I do understand on the UFC's part, but still surprised nonetheless. And even more surprising was that the UFC refused to take Anthony Johnson back, Rumble Johnson, which I've said it a few times on the podcast. I was super excited to see him come back, because he was talking of coming back at heavyweight as well. For anyone that knows that Rumble Johnson is a monster, he's a knockout artist, has a pretty good record in the UFC as well, a couple of losses here or there, but a really exciting fighter. People say, when he retired, he kind of just retired. He said he didn't have it in him anymore. but not that old guy, you know. I think he's in his late 30s, 35, 36, something like that. A serious knockout power, like, and you know, fought from welterweight all the way up to heavyweight, which is fucking insane. But yeah, I was quite surprised there. But I will say I think it was Dana White was asked in an interview about, you know, why he decided not to take Rumble Johnson back, and he didn't really say anything. But he did allude to, he just said, you know, take a guess, pretty much to the guy who was giving him the interview. And the only thing I can think of there is that maybe Rumble was hot for like PEDs, I would imagine. That's the only thing I think of Dana White was hinting to. Now that hasn't come out or anything like that, so I don't know. But it seemed like that's what Dana White was talking about. So maybe Rumble before like while he was on, because he was powerlifting and stuff like that, which obviously you can take whatever you like when you're doing shit like that. So maybe he stopped them when he knew he was coming back to the UFC, but unfortunately that stuff stays in your system, so it could have been something like that. Maybe he tested hot for, or he told the UFC that he has it in his system, something like that. But yeah, the UFC's loss is Bellator's gain. We're just quickly going to run through, if you look at Johnson's record. It's absolutely crazy to see like that he has fought, you know, guys like Tommy Spear, Josh Koscheck, Dan Hardy, that at welterweight is crazy. I think that guy fought at welterweight. But anyway, to go through his record, kind of has a couple of like a win, a loss, 3 wins, a loss, win, loss, you know, but no major, you know, major big bad ones. Like in terms of the light heavyweight division, you know, he beat guys like Phil Davis, Hojiro Nogueira, he beat Gustafsson, he lost to Cormier, beat Jimmy Manuwa, beat Ryan Bader, beat Glover Teixeira, and he lost to Cormier. So there is only 2 losses, Daniel Cormier in the light heavyweight division, which absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's his worst opponent. Like, he's not a wrestler, he's a striker. But yeah, surprised. But you know, the UFC obviously have their reasons for not taking him. But as I said, it's Bellator's gain, and from what I hear, Yoel Romero has decided to sign. They both have signed for Bellator, but Yoel is going to sign for at light heavyweight, which that is actually a matchup they could make, is Rumble versus Yoel. If I can imagine the violence in that fight. Two big names for Bellator, in fairness. You know, obviously the UFC's caliber of talent is a lot bigger than places like Bellator, you know. But they're two good names to get, and I'm sure, you know, you consider they have Ryan Bader, Lyoto Machida, a lot of these other guys are still good fighters. Maybe not able to cut it in the UFC anymore, but I don't know if it's light heavyweight division they could. But look, nevertheless, that could be a great fight to make, those two. Yeah, it'll be exciting to see. It'll bring a lot more eyes on Bellator, you know, especially for, I don't watch a whole lot of Bellator, I'm mostly just UFC, and then I'll turn my eye over there to some of the big fights, but I'll be a little more interested now. But yeah, you're going to see, I think you're going to see a lot more of that in the next few weeks, the UFC, the next few months, you know, a couple of guys that, these guys are a bit older, you know, maybe hanging around a bit too much. A lot of guys who I've spoken of, like your Arlovskis, your Junior Dos Santos, Jacques, a few of them guys. Yeah, unfortunately, that's just the way it's going to be, I think. You can understand it. The UFC are now trying to build up their smaller names. You know, let these guys come up through the ranks. So yeah, they're right too. But like I said, that's Bellator's gain. Anyway, that's all the MMA talk. I'm going to fucking quickly talk about the Paul brothers. Again, I very rarely talk about boxing because I just don't know a whole lot about it, and I'm not a big fan. I talk about some things if they entertain me. Not that the Paul brothers really entertain me. I don't want to completely be shitting on them. You know, go get your money. Credit to them what they're doing. and they're bringing my eyes on boxing a little bit, I suppose. But I've already discussed all that, what the kind of things they're doing for boxing and the things they're definitely not doing. But what I want to talk about mainly is I listened to an interview with, like, Logan Paul is not an idiot. He's quite a smart guy. If you listen to him, especially when it comes to earning money, it's pretty cool the things he's done. He's getting himself a fight against fucking Floyd Mayweather, which is, to me, is insane. I'm hopefully going to get a friend of mine to come on this podcast in the next few weeks. A big boxing fan. Try and get him to pick his brain a bit on what he thinks about it. But my opinion, brilliant for bringing new eyes to Mayweather, I suppose. I don't know. For me, I think it's terrible for boxing. I've said that already. I think it's so bad. Because I said this already on a podcast, but think of it from my standpoint. I'm, I consider myself a massive MMA fan. I tend to kind of know my shit. Don't know a lot about boxing, but to me, looking at boxing, I kind of look at it now as this being a stupid kind of, how do I say it? If this is what's bringing my eyes to boxing, it doesn't really tell me a lot about boxing, you know? If that makes sense. I know there's guys in other podcasts that are saying it's great for boxing, that, brings new eyes to it. I don't think it does. I think, a lot of, like, Logan Paul's fans are going to watch this and then they're not going to watch it again. I don't think they are, to be honest. You're either a fan or not. I don't think it's going to take Logan Paul fighting fucking Floyd Mayweather to get you to become a boxing fan. That's just my opinion. Anyway, I've spoken about that already, so I'm not going to go into it too much, and I've already pretty much shit on the Paul brothers. But Logan Paul is actually doesn't boil my blood as much as his younger brother. No, I did listen to Logan Paul on a podcast, and when you kind of listen to him talk, he's not an idiot. He knows what he's doing, and how he was super excited about getting the call about the Floyd fight, and again, credit to him. He's going to make big money out of it. And I did say previously that if the two guys came together and came out with a YouTube boxing organisation, I would actually watch it all the time. Bring in these celebrities that want to fight, or ex-footballers, or whatever. That'd be brilliant. I just think it's wrong to put it in with boxing at the same time. But there's definitely an avenue for it, and I would absolutely watch it. I'm absolutely going to watch this fight. It's just in terms of mixing it with real boxing, I think it's crazy. I'm so surprised boxing is allowing it. I'd love to hear any of my friends or people that watch this that are boxing fans. Give me your opinion on it. Tell me what you think. I'm going to get somebody on to talk to me about it anyway. But for me, it's just bad. It reminds me of when CM Punk came to the UFC, but that's not nearly like CM Punk didn't go up and fight huge names. And as soon as he went on last couple of fights, he was kicked out again. But I'm not going to shit too much on Logan Paul. I am going to take the biggest shit on Jake Paul in a minute. But no, Logan Paul he said himself they're doing their thing, they're making their money, and they are training hard, supposedly, which is great. And you're getting a chance at probably the greatest boxer ever. So good luck and whatever. Hopefully he does well. If I can imagine if he beat Floyd, which he won't, but supposedly he's a lot bigger, which it's just the whole thing is kind of crazy. I don't think it does good things for boxing. But look, it's funny, he was asked in a podcast about fighting his own brother, and he said that the two of them were talking about it, eventually fighting each other. Things like that is pretty cool. It's exciting. It brings different eyes on it. I would love, I spoke before about this, I said it on the podcast, it would be actually really cool to see an actual boxing organisation for people from other sports that could fight each other in a legit fight, but where they would have to train for maybe a year, or go through a legit fight camp before they could do it, something like that. I've said all this already, getting off that. Logan Paul, kind of not so bad to listen to, and credit to him what he's doing. But what's driving me crazy is his brother, fucking Jake Paul, calling out every MMA fighter under the sun, wants to fight everybody. Put up a video talking to Conor McGregor, insulting his wife and all that, and I'm not saying, what an asshole kind of thing, like, but Conor McGregor does enough insulting himself. The problem is, some of these guys are going to see Jake Paul. They're going to see, you know, you get like a Jorge Masvidal or someone like that meets Jake Paul and he's trying to insult him. Those guys are going to fucking hit him there and then. There's not going to be like you know, an insults over and back, or you might see another incident of like Conor McGregor with the dolly, you know, throwing it at Khabib's bus, or the UFC fighter bus, things like that. It just gets a little, when a guy like Jake Paul starts to get a bit more personal, it may not end too well. And usually for him, he's safe enough calling out guys like maybe McGregor or whatever, because I don't think McGregor's going to even bother, but then again he might. But you know, he's bringing more light on himself by insulting, you know, the UFC, insulting Dana White, and now you've got the Diaz brothers are talking about him, and if the Diaz brothers won't care who you are, if they see you and you know you're trying to be a smart ass, they'll fuck you up. That's a fact. And same with guys like Masvidal, you know, if they see you and you try and talk shit to them, these are street guys. They're not, you know, they don't give a fuck. They're legit fighters at heart. It's different when you have a huge reputation like Conor McGregor and your money is on the line. You know, he's more about business. That's different. But yeah, I think Jake Paul has to be very careful. And I stand by my thing. You know, there's obviously a video going around. I'm sure everyone has seen it, where he met Dylan Dennis on the street and started throwing shit out of the back of a truck. Dylan Dennis, I spoke about him before, but when this happened, he was doing an interview with Brendan Schaub on Brendan Schaub's one of his other podcasts called Food Truck Diaries. And for anyone that hasn't seen it, basically he just interviews guys and they have food and yeah, that's all. When I first saw it, there's two angles of the video out now. Obviously you have the Jake Paul's angle where they come in on the back of like a pickup and he drives by and he sees Dylan Dennis and he starts, you know, calling Conor McGregor's bitch and starts throwing shit at him. It's mostly it's like water balloons or bits of rubbish, and you see Dylan Dennis runs after him and throws some of the rubbish back. And I'd heard people saying that it looked like it was staged, which I didn't at first think. I didn't think that was the case at first. I thought that that was bullshit. But then when you see it from the other angle, I think it was Brendan Schaub's crew that put up the video, it did look a little bit staged in my opinion. Simply just, I could be wrong, but in the sense of like where were they all going on the pickup? You know, the group of his boys in the back of the pickup, did they already know Dylan Dennis was there? Or is it a case because Brendan Schaub was quite close with Logan Paul anyway? Did he tell him that he was there and then he showed up? Or did they all know about it? It was just very weird, and to be honest, yeah, I'm leaning towards maybe that was that was all a setup, that maybe it was all for the cameras. I could be wrong, but yeah, it's just, there's two ways about this. There's two ways of this. Either Jake Paul made himself look like a total fucking pussy because he showed up throwing shit with all his buddies in the back of the truck and then still drives off when one man, Dylan Dennis by himself, chases after him. Or might have been a setup. I don't know for sure, but there's just a number of reasons as to why. Like, how did they know he was there? And if they knew, like, obviously they were prepped with their water balloons and shit like that. I don't know. Or did Brendan Schaub give them a heads up or something? I don't know. I think that actual, there's clips out now, but the actual full interview with Dylan Dennis, I believe, is being released Monday or Tuesday of this week. But yeah, might have been, I don't know. Watch the video and see what you think yourselves. It's going around everywhere. But yeah, I don't know. Was it a bit of TV shit? Like I said, when you look at it from Jake Paul's angle on the back of the truck, it doesn't look like a setup. Dylan Dennis looks like he's pissed off when he runs out and he's throwing shit back at them. Then you look at it from, yeah, as I said, the Brendan Schaub, the Food Truck Diaries part. Dennis doesn't look 100% pissed off, and he almost, when he turns and reacts, it's like he just reacts too quick, like he knew it was going to happen. I don't know, I could be wrong, but yeah, I actually can't wait to see someone fuck Jake Paul up, and that's what they're looking for. They want people to hate them so they can watch and, you know, hope they get fucked up. It's just, yeah, somebody's going to beat the shit out of him. If that's the kind of shit he's up with, if that wasn't a setup and it was real and he's going around like, you know, trying to punk MMA fighters and stuff like that, somebody's going to fuck him up. If not in the ring, he'll be outside of it. But yeah, as I said, Logan Paul not so bad. His brother Jake irritates the fuck out of me. Credit to them. I'd like to see them like this thing that they're talking about doing, or this YouTube boxing. I actually hope it booms for them, but I really hope boxing keep it separate. You know, keep it away from all, or put them on the undercard. Don't be putting them headlining cards with fucking real boxers. I'm not going to go on too much about this because I've done enough. But yeah, check out all that Jake Paul stuff. It's funny enough, but yeah, you know, maybe let me know your thoughts if you think it looks real, because I don't think it does. The more I look at it, the less I think it was real. But you never know. You know, people react differently to things. Maybe Dylan Dennis's reaction was real. But yeah, we'll see. Big fight coming up for Logan Paul against Floyd Mayweather. I will hopefully get someone on, as I said, a friend of mine, but he knows his shit about boxing. I might get him on to have a discussion with me and let me know what he thinks, or does he think it's bad for boxing, or you know, some of you guys let me know as well what you think. That's pretty much the end of this podcast. There's fights on today. Just finished the Thompson versus Neal card. As I said, we're a little behind on all of this stuff, but that I'm going to talk about that one. I'll have another podcast up a little later. But just as I said, trying to catch up on some of the stuff that we left behind, I suppose. But we'll be back into regular podcasts again, and I keep saying it, but we are going to bring more quality, some better videos coming out. I've got some actually pretty cool interviews set up soon. It's just a matter of getting the software set up and stuff like that. I have a couple of cool guys that are willing to talk to me, and I'm trying to talk to some others as well, from nutritionists, fitness gurus to fighters, stuff like that. So some guys make for fun podcasts. Yeah, so hope everyone is all set for Christmas, and yeah, that's it really. I'll hopefully have one more podcast before Christmas, I think. Yeah, I will. I'll have one more before Christmas, but nevertheless, happy Christmas, guys. I hope you're all doing well, whether you're in lockdown, out of lockdown, fucking this side of the world or that side of the world, whatever. Hope you're all doing well. Please keep liking and sharing. Yeah, like, share, and definitely subscribe, please. Get the page out there. As I said before, I'm enjoying doing this shit. I'd like to keep doing it. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Take care.